Choose life. Choose a car. Choose an electric car. Choose an electric van. Choose to clear your diary for an hour of the day to listen to industry experts. Choose wind. Choose solar. Whatever you choose not to burn stuff. Choose collaboration. Choose sustainable transport solutions. Choose a fixed rate renewable energy tariff and a meat-free diet. Choose net zero by 2050. Choose switching to electric and wondering why it's taken you so long. Choose knowledge. Choose laughter. Choose your friends. Choose your regular hit of the EV Café webinar. Choose relaxing on your couch listening to game-changing, thought-provoking intellectuals that actually know what they're talking about. Choose sipping a brew at the end of it all, safe in the knowledge that you now know better than to listen to the waffle for Bob and Karen on Facebook. Choose the EV Café.
As it turns out, quite a few of you did actually choose the EV Café today and are now tuned in to watch those that have become affectionately known as the Avengers. And for the next hour, we'll chat about the energy emergency and what that means for refuelling. Not of the wet kind either, other than coffee obviously. Cold coffee. Cue the coffee mugs. But that's really for humans like us, or robots like John Curtis, think Futurama. So a very warm welcome to you all, and I really hope you enjoy the ambience of the cafe today as much as we enjoy being here. So a quick introduction to myself. As some of you already know, my name is Johnny Berry, and I will be the moderator for today, but I prefer the name as Chief Barista. Or barrister, sorry. My friends here have some other names that we probably shouldn't share. In my day job, I head up the decarbonisation strategy for Novuna Vehicle Solutions, formerly known as Hitachi Capital. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's get on with the show. Sarah, hello. What do we have on the menu today? And
I like how you promote yourself from a barista to a barrister. Who needs law school, eh?
Hourly rate.
You've got this. You've got this. Well, we've got a great show for you today. We are delighted to be joined by AnnexusEV, who are going to talk us through what's going on out there in the marketplace with all the energy surges and rising prices and what you can do about it. And then we've got Adam Fletcher from GEOTAB, who is going to come on and tell us what they're up to. They're our sponsor, so thank you very much for being here today, Adam. And then we're going to hear from Charlie Cook of Rightcharge, who will help us decide how you can get the best home charger for you and switch to a renewable energy tariff which suits. But then we're just going to spend some time right now going through what's been happening in the EV Café world and what's coming up for the rest of the month ahead.
Over to you, Paul.
Before we do that, we're just going to say a big thank you, as always, actually that way, to our wonderful sponsors, My Energy, who provide, well, Sam can show exactly what you provide. Come on, Sam, display the wares. This is the shopping channel.
Get your zappy out.
Yeah, get your zappy out. And yeah, so
Beautiful.
Chargers, which are sustainable, linked to Hive Hub and solar and all of that good stuff. GeoTab providing insights to the industry from the telematics systems that they put in the vehicles, which help in the transition to electric vehicles. And of course, the AA supporting giving power to electric drivers, I think is the phrase that they use. So we are very, very grateful to all of our sponsors. And we do have some exciting announcements coming up in the near future. So watch out for that, everybody. And I'm going to hand over to the lovely John.
There is no lovely John, but there is me. So thank you. The mail boy. So I'm the one who deals with all the questions and tries to get some answers from our guests and from this bunch of Muppets to your questions. So if you... The only one to take exception to that was Sam. So if you have any questions for us, there is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Hit the Q&A tab, put your questions in there, and today we will be choosing the very best question. And the person who writes it will be getting their very own EV Café mug. So put your questions to our guests and to each of us into the Q&A box, not the chat box on the right hand side. That's for other stuff. And whilst I talk about it, could you consider songs for a Spotify playlist this month? So anything to do with energy or emergency. Song titles in the chat box. I'll pull them all off, make up a Spotify playlist. You can listen to it while you charge. Thank you kindly. And now over to the shirt. Clark.
Shirt. Outrageous. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sam Clark. My day job is the Chief Vehicle Officer for GridServe Sustainable Energy. So digital housekeeping for today. Firstly, questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A section and try to avoid putting them in the chat if possible. But do put chat in the chat. We've got loads and loads of streams of information. So if you have a question, please do put it in the Q&A. Also, make sure you set everyone to everyone so that your message in your chat box goes and everyone can see it clearly. Presenters, please keep your to 5 minutes. We've only got an hour's show, so please keep it as short as possible. And that is the digital housekeeping done. So moving on to our first guest, Gerard Duggan, Head of Energy Services at AnnexusEV. So procurement of energy is an important part of every business agenda, particularly with the turbulent events affecting wholesale rates. Gerard is here to help businesses spend less on utilities and more sustainable as they do it. AnnexusEV strives to empower anyone who wants to switch to truly sustainable energy and save the planet. As co-founder and head of energy services for AnnexusEV, Gerard is showing us how this can be done. Electric charging options are many and varied, and using truly green supplies can significantly reduce the carbon footprint of individuals and corporations alike. Whether you simply want your energy bills to cost a little less, or you want them to stop costing the earth, nice way, like we did there, he is here to help businesses in that regard. Just as that point, I was reading off the list, Johnny promoted it and I lost my end of sentence, but I've blacked it anyway. So Gerard, over to you, and looking forward to hearing your 5 minutes of information for us.
And welcome to the EV Café, Gerard.
And
thank you.
To EV Café.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. And thank you in particular to Paul for inviting me to be a guest today. Not sure if that makes me the headline act or the warm-up act, but please don't answer that because I don't want to be upset. So getting on with the detail, the issue that we've got in the market at the moment is big demand and a very squeezed supply. I'm just going to put up on screen a few of the factors that are influencing the price you're paying at home, the price you're paying in your business, and obviously the cost of charging up your car. Predominantly, it's about the huge demand around the world, particularly for gas, the sort of geopolitical pressures that there are around the world. And obviously, we don't need to be reminded about the incursion of Russian forces into eastern Ukraine in the last 24 hours. At times over the last 6 months, and I'll show you a graph to illustrate what this looks like, there have been some really tight supply conditions, which has meant that we have all paid a lot more for our energy. And what I think people aren't aware of is how important gas is for the generation of electricity. Whilst in the UK, we switched off pretty much all of our coal-fired power stations, they've been, in essence, replaced predominantly by gas-fired power stations. And this graph very, very graphically illustrates what the market's done over the last 12 months. And you can see two particularly large spikes, one that kind of kicked things off September time last year. And then we had a really dramatic spike just before Christmas, again associated with weather and supplies into the market. So what does this all mean for you at home? Well, at home, you've got the benefit of being protected by Ofgem's price cap, introduced in 2017, at the time to protect about 11 million households. And how times have changed, that's now increased to 11 million households that are being protected, which means that there's a cap on the amount of money that your supplier can charge you per kilowatt hour. So with effect from the 1st of April, that increase in gas is going to be about just shy of 7.5 pence per kilowatt hour. And for electricity, it's going to be just under 28.5 pence per kilowatt hour. So huge increases for everyone to have to pay at home. And during the time, pretty much from when that graph did its first spike, we had a domino effect of suppliers coming out of the market. They basically went into administration. In essence, they got their hedging strategy wrong, and as a result of which they weren't buying their energy at the right price. The price cap meant they were actually selling their energy below what it was costing them. It doesn't take an economist to demonstrate that that's not going to last terribly long. What does that mean for you in business? Well, one thing that I guess I take for granted doing what I do each day is, and it's something that came out of a conversation with Paul, is that there actually is no price cap for businesses. The market can go to whatever level it's going to reach as a result of those market forces. So businesses are seeing a huge increase, the biggest increase in prices since the market deregulated in 2000. So these are the sort of average prices that your contract renewals are going to start coming in at, which is a massive increase. It's going to mean for most people a doubling of their bill. And to compound the price that people are going to pay, there is going to be an increase in delivery costs too. Ofgem introduced a targeted charge review. It's a bit of a technical subject, which I'm more than happy to talk about either in the questions or if anyone wants to talk to me outside of today's discussion. But it in essence means prices are going up even more. So here's a quick summary, conscious of time, some few actions both at home and in your business. If your domestic contract, your deal is coming up for renewal, don't renew it. You'll find that most of the energy companies you're on supply with will actually be looking to increase your costs in contract above the price cap. So use the price cap, take advantage of that. I think by the summer, we should start to see some other tariffs coming in below the figures I've given you in the price cap. That will then start to drive some savings at home. In business, start to look at 2-year deals if your contract's coming up imminently, just because you've got the opportunity to enjoy some of the discounting that there will be in 2-year deals. And if you can, implement some energy efficiency that works without people. And by that I mean things that people don't have to think about. If you're relying on them turning things off, they'll invariably leave things on. So use the technology where you can to make sure that you are only using the minimum number of kilowatt hours to operate your business. Sounding a bit like your dad there, turning the lights off in your bedroom. So that's me very, very quickly. I'm sure there'll be some interesting questions to come along based on that. And I'm very happy to answer those, especially if they're easy ones.
Thank you very much, Gerard. And
Thank
some
you,
really
Gerard.
sound advice there. As you can see, I've just been in Sam's wardrobe.
Yeah, very, very smart. I feel very underdressed now, Johnny and Sam.
Over to the panel for questions. I see that the Q&A tab is quite busy at the moment with questions for you, Gerard.
Yeah.
So should we go to the mailroom?
It is.
Gerard, Shane Reese asks the question about wholesale electricity prices and their volatility, and asks, should public charging rates become as variable as petrol and diesel prices?
Good question. I think it very much depends upon how that provider has bought their electricity. I have noticed that InstaVolt put a post out recently that they were increasing their cost. I can only imagine their deal has come to an end, but I would like to think those energy companies, those charging platforms have actually bought their energy for a reasonable period of time. And if they've done that on a fixed deal, then there's no reason why those prices should be going up at the moment. If they've just renewed, then obviously that's why the prices are going up. There will be perhaps some operators who are buying their contracts flexibly, which means they are going into the market more regularly. So it's not a simple answer, but I think prices shouldn't be going up as a result of the wholesale costs increasing at the moment.
Thank you, Gerard. I see Paul has his hand up.
Well, I thought you know, the cost of energy going up and stuff, does it make the argument for solar and the return on investment that solar could bring be a more viable option at the moment? Or is it something that we should investigate?
Yeah, I think people should. Certainly, I'm seeing more and more clients making me aware that they've got solar arrays on the top of their offices or factories. There is no feed-in tariff to support that investment as there was a number of years ago. So those solar arrays need to stand up on the economics. But the way prices are, and the way I see prices certainly for the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to continue to be high. If you can generate some of your own power, definitely the way forward. And I would suggest that you include a battery in that setup so that you can store your own energy. There's not really much value in selling your energy pool back into the market. You'll probably get something like 9p if you're lucky. Bearing in mind, I'm talking about retail prices at over 28p, closer to 30p. Makes sense to use it all yourself and store any surplus you've got.
Brilliant.
Gerard, I'm just wondering, you're obviously the younger, more handsome and more intelligent version of me. I wonder if you'd do a stunt double for me at some point when we do videos.
I'd love to, absolutely love to.
And Paul,
Martin, well, yeah. Oh, yes, with the legs. Yeah. Can you do leg kicks?
I know Johnny and I are now matching, but you three, I mean.
I might need to practice the leg kicks bit. Not quite as bendy as I was, John.
Oh, dear. I think the three of us could do an Easter special. Martin Schaefer-Bartold has asked, how can V2G be accelerated to mitigate the impact of volatile energy prices? And it picks up on something that Paul Barnfather's also asked about the volatility in markets. We see prices go up. Do you expect to see those prices come back down again?
Yeah, I do see. The figure, the graph that I showed you earlier was one that SSE provide to me on a daily basis, and as part of that package they send me, I can see what prices are doing over the next 4 years, and certainly prices are coming down. This year prices are pretty much flat. Unusual, because normally you see a dip in the summer when demand is not as high as it would normally be for obvious reasons. But actually it's worse in the summer than it is at the moment, would you believe? So this year is not good, but if you get 2 and 3 year deals, certainly you're going to see some improved pricing. I strongly suspect that there will be some reconciliation between us and Vladimir, and that they will sort of get back to getting Nord Stream 2 back on track, and that there will be more supply, but it's probably going to take 6, maybe 9 months before that comes to pass. Nord Stream 2 should have started shipping gas this summer. I suspect it's going to be maybe Santa might deliver that for Christmas. And in terms of the issue around the sort of the selling energy back in essence from vehicles, I think that's going to be a very important part of balancing the network. One of the big challenges that the industry has is how it balances demand at peak times. And I think the more bidirectional chargers that are installed that facilitate that, the better, because it will start to smooth out the demands.
Paul patiently has his hand up.
He's very polite, isn't he?
He is very polite.
I've behaved myself well today.
Very good.
House trained.
So I get a little, gold lightning bolt.
Very
anyway,
cute, Paul.
My question, because I think it's got to be the question on many people's lips, right? The cost of energy going up. Does that mean we should stop buying electric vehicles?
Well, it's better than buying petrol at the minute. I heard on the radio this morning it's going in the direction of £1.50.
Well, yeah, and more. Yeah, no. Obviously, I'm asking it sort of tongue in cheek because, what you've just said there with the 2 and 3 year prices, obviously the energy price will probably come back down and things like solar will mitigate it and other things like that. But yeah, so it isn't the end of the electric vehicle market, is it?
No, I think people probably need to recalculate some of the figures that they've worked on in the sector. And Paul, you've shared with me some of those calculations, and they are not accurate based upon what the price of electricity is at the moment. But I think, if anything, this is going to drive people, excuse the pun, towards electric vehicles more, because in actual fact, it's much cheaper to operate those in the round. So I don't think it's going to challenge the acceleration towards that switch over from ICE vehicles to EVs.
That's good news.
But may impact the total cost of ownership, I guess,
Yes.
and the calculations that are used there.
It will, without
Sam.
question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Gerard.
I had a question which I'm not sure whether Gerard can help with, or whether it's perhaps more for the audience, someone within it. But it's mentioned a couple of times now V2G charging, and the fact that it only really works on a Leaf at the moment because of the CHAdeMO connector rather than the CCS. And I noticed that on Fully Charged the other day with their review of the ID Buzz. Is it ID Buzz or just Buzz?
Yeah, ID Buzz.
Yeah, they were talking about bi-directional charging. It was the phraseology, and the fact you can power your home from the van. But I'm not entirely sure that's actually accurate. Whether they just mean you can power like you can with the EV6 or the Hyundai, you can power a 240-volt socket, which would be materially different. So, when is that technology going to be available? Because I think could be a potential game changer in terms of the ability to power your house from your car. If it wasn't just the Leaf, and I would have a V2G charger now, I think, because I just think it's a great idea. Instead of needing to buy a Tesla Powerwall, etc., why not use the vehicle? Anyway, don't know whether that's a question for Gerard or whether it's or anyone on the.
Jim Hunt has helpfully put a vlog in the a blog, sorry, in the chat. So that might
We actually have Jim Hunt put his virtual hand up. I mean, do we want to invite him on to give us a minute of his thoughts?
Do it.
Why
okay,
not?
and then after that, we must go to the next
move
special
on.
guest of the show. So, Jim, you have only a minute or so, but I will just take you off mute. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the EV Café.
Oh, hi there. Hi, Sarah. Jam first. Sorry. Yeah, I sit on all sorts of UK, ISO, IEC, international smart grid standards committees, with a particular interest in V2X, given the name of my company, V2G EVSE Limited. So 15118-20 is on its way soonish, a few months. The ID Buzz, check my link, specifically states it will support plug and charge and V2H, and I speculate publicly about whether it will be AC or DC, but it's coming slowly. And Sam, let's talk offline. There's all sorts of things coming down the line very soon, which will be utterly wonderful from VW and others. And CHAdeMO's on the way out, in my humble opinion, but it's all we got for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Thank you very much for joining. But maybe we'll have a separate conversation around bi-directional charging in a future episode. Thank you, Jim. It's now time to move to our next special guest. I just want to say a big thanks to Gerard. Thank you for joining this morning, and thanks for giving us lots of really, really useful advice. The chat box has gone a bit wild. But yeah, over to you, Sam, to introduce our next special guest for today.
Lovely, thank you. And Johnny, please don't promote him to Spotlight until I finish, otherwise I lose my. Anyway, yeah, the next guest is Adam Fletcher from GEOTAB. He's partner account manager for UK and Ireland. Adam is now a very familiar face on the EV Café, and of course our sectoral sponsor in vehicle telematics. So a very valued guest. Adam's primary role is to help companies use rich data to obtain valuable insights into fleets. You've done it again. Thanks, Johnny.
Not actually me this time. It was Adam.
It was Adam.
Well, Adam, it's your own bloody fault. Now crack on. Off you go.
Sorry about that. I just clicked the button. So yeah, just to follow on, really, I want to talk through how GEOTAB's insights and data can help customers get through the rising energy costs. So just quickly, driver coaching improves range, right? So we hear about driver behaviour in ICE vehicles and how that can affect your MPGs and how much you're spending on fuel, and it's no different in EVs. So we've got, I'll just do 3 steps here. So poor driver behaviour. In just a month, one of our end customers was able to improve the range across their whole fleet by as much as 25%. So that's a significant change by just improving the driver style. And then similarly, another end customer was able to get more range. So we're looking at the miles per kilowatt, went from 1.5 miles per kilowatt to 3 miles per kilowatt. So again, improving your energy economy on the vehicle. And lastly, high speed. So looking at some of the data, if you drive on average your EV, if you drive 65 miles an hour or 75 miles an hour, we've seen an average of 15% more efficiency by driving at a lower speed. So of course, high speed is a way of burning more energy. So our top tips of these 3 is improve your driver behavior within your fleet. That will naturally bring your score down. By doing that, you'll get more miles per kilowatt and avoid driving at high speed, not just for safety, but actually for improve your energy efficiency on the road. So that's your very quick win. Second of all, we've got our charge assurance dashboard. So you can plan to charge. So we've just spoke there about using public charging networks, using home or business. So with our EV charge assurance dashboard, you can look at when you need to charge your vehicles, prioritize certain vehicles, and it's a simple, traffic light system that you can see on there. So, those that are green are good to go. So you can put in the times that these vehicles need to leave your depot or need to leave home, and you can make sure that they're charged or have sufficient charge to go about their next daily task. So if you're running a fleet and you need 50 vehicles to go out at 5 o'clock in the morning, the charge assurance dashboard can give you warnings to let you know if those vehicles have got enough charge to go out, and our end customers actually use it to make sure that the depots are putting the right vehicles on charge at the right time. So by doing that, you're utilizing your own premises, so you're paying a lower rate when it comes to your energy bills. And similarly, if you're doing this at home or your fleet's doing it at home, you're charging overnight potentially. You can utilize the cheaper rates at night time. So yeah, planning how you're charging your vehicles is critical there too. And that charge assurance dashboard will help with that. The next one is just to be efficient. So learning how to drive an EV, I think it's been mentioned plenty of times, certainly on the EV Café, but we're seeing more of this coming up in conversation. So we've got some top tips from the insight data that we've got. So avoid harsh braking, maximize your regenerative braking, and energy consumption will improve by about 10%. So that's a top tip there. Driving style. So again, we've mentioned high speeds kind of coming off the back of the original slide. So invariably that leads to harsh braking. So both of those combined is going to burn more energy. So again, you're going to get less in your range of your vehicle. And heating and cooling. So yeah, in a normalized vehicle, we're using the wasted heat from the engine to heat the vehicle, but actually, in an EV, we're using the power from the vehicle to do that. So avoid doing that where possible. And when safe to do so at low speeds, rather than using your aircon, open your window. So again, just another top tip there of how you can avoid using the auxiliary system in the vehicle to heat or cool the vehicle down, depending on where we are in the year. And then lastly, this was a thing we've done recently for an end customer. So we're looking at where long-term, where they should put their infrastructure. So the 2 heat maps here, you'll see on the left-hand side, that's an area, so it's within Coventry, so we can see where vehicles are spending most of their time. So obviously the red are the hotspot areas. And then on the right-hand side, we've zoomed in into particular areas to kind of see on the industrial estate that they operate within, where can they put in the infrastructure. So just as another end customer was planning their infrastructure, they were going to put 10 chargers at either side. And what they was able to see through using the heat map was actually, we don't need 10 at this other site because most of our vehicles are at the other side of the city and they're spending most of their time. So we looked at over a date range of where their vehicles are congregating, and now they're planning their infrastructure, their own infrastructure around the data that they're seeing. So again, just another way in which the insights can help there. And open to questions. I know that was short and sharp, but I know you all keep me to time, so I thought I'd whiz through that.
Over to you, Sarah. You got your hand.
That was the first one. I did a good job. I just wanted to know, Adam, how receptive are fleet managers at the moment to this concept of encouraging their drivers to behave?
Well, it's not new. That's the thing. So it's not new. We are looking, if you think about telematics in general, for driver behaviour has been a topic that they have covered previously. So this is nothing new to them. It is obviously new in the sense that it's improving their range. So again, it's about making them more efficient, and there are incentives for it. So we are seeing end customers putting incentives around this. So, you know, if you drive better, you'll get some form of bonus, either on a weekly, monthly or annual basis. You know, we've seen an end customer promote a holiday, for instance, once a year for the top driver in the year. So there are incentives around that, and increases in pay. So correlation between spending less energy, improving range, getting more work done, and obviously then, you know, increases in pay. So there's lots of incentives for the driver too.
Oh,
So it seems to me then that it's still the focus on efficiency is key. Just by transitioning to electric vehicles doesn't mean to say that, you know, the game's over and we've won. It seems that we still need to drive that efficiency model and get the very best out of the vehicles that we're using.
Yeah, correct. I think, you know, planning your routes, planning your day, planning how you're driving, planning how you're charging. All of these topics are about efficiency. So, yeah, absolutely. Using the real impact here has been able to get the EV data, right? So once you've transitioned to electric, that isn't the journey end. It's been now then the data becomes more important, and then the insights from the data becomes even more important to a customer. So yeah, absolutely. All of these insights allow better planning for efficiency.
Brilliant.
John, over to you.
There's a question from Steve Jones, which I think follows on from that, Adam, which is around your thoughts on the future trends that will impact fleet electrification. What have you learned from your data and the insights that you've got that will suggest the future for us?
In terms of what the transition across to
just the whole journey from where we are, internal combustion engine vehicles, to where we're likely to end up. So are we looking at changes in ownership patterns? Are we looking at utilization, which is a different, completely different model? Anything to do with the cost of charging across public networks? Any insights that you might have gathered?
Yeah, sure. So if we take, I'll just use an example for last mile delivery as an example. Before, they were driving big HGVs or big vehicles into large cities, and now we're seeing a change through our customers that operate within that system or in that industry, sorry, that are procuring smaller vans. So they're getting rid of the larger vehicles that would go into inner cities, and they're getting smaller vans to do lots more, to do the deliveries over lots more vehicles, but EV vehicles. So we're seeing that trend definitely. In terms of the charging, I think that the biggest mistake some companies have made or are making is not planning the whole picture. So, you know, what is your infrastructure setup like? Do you have enough chargers over at the home address of your employees, or do you have enough chargers at your office or depot to complete the charging there? Because, you know, we have got customers, you can see, who've got 50 EVs, for example, but they've got 5 chargers at the depot. Well, actually, that just tells you quick maths that, you know, you're not going to be able to charge all those vehicles in time. So yeah, and actually infrastructure in the ground, that's another really important piece.
Matt Leary's asked a question about people taking on your recommendations, and he's saying that, are you aware of any indication as to whether the rise in energy prices has affected consumer confidence in EVs? And I guess that's business confidence as well. So are people saying, lead times are really long for electric vehicles, electric vehicle prices are going up, this is all too much of a pain in the backside, and despite your data and despite your insights, people are saying, no, I trust my gut, not doing it?
And so I think I think we covered it already on this call, but the availability of any vehicle is prolonged, not just EVs. We're seeing more EVs coming to market. So on our EVSA, for example, there's lots more EVs available in market than there was 12 months ago, for example. So there's more EVs coming to market. There's more of a focus, I think, from OEMs now on delivering more EVs to market. And similarly, I guess from what we're seeing from the data, if you look at the fuel rising costs, it's going up. Energy prices is going up as well. But if you look at the overall picture, we're able to give the insights to give you that information to kind of back your bid. So we're not just looking at, can you transition to an EV? We're looking, will you have enough range? Which type of vehicles? And actually across our fleet or our end customers, we're looking at the whole fleet as a picture. And it might only be 10% that you can do now, but 10% is better than nothing. And so we're just trying to give our end customers the data to make informed decisions.
One very quick question, if I may, before we finish, and it's from an anonymous attendee, which is sad, really. And get a name, seriously. Anyway,
get your name for it, John.
Come on, you just got to show yourself here.
Name them, John. Name them.
Yeah.
Well, I can't because it says it's right. Let's call them Brian Crumb. Brian Crumb asks.
We like Brian.
Does GEOTAB provide a fully fledged system, or is it just an add-on to an existing system that might be in the business? It's important, this one. GEOTAB complete system?
Complete system. So I think if you're connecting, so the device here that goes into any vehicle, so be it battery, be it ICE, be it HGV, be it car, be it truck, it's the same device, same solution. So if you're running a fleet of ICE and EVs or looking to transition to EVs, the platform and solution remains the same. There's obviously just a few differences when you're looking at MPG instead of kilowatt. There's little differences there, but it's the same platform, same data.
Brilliant. Okay, so complete system from GEOTAB. You heard it here, not first, but it's important. Thank you, anonymous caller.
Thank you very much. I can't believe this. We're actually on time today. It's great news. So it's actually time to welcome our next special guest. Thank you very much, Adam. Get me a GEOTAB device in my car now. See you soon. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Johnny. So, Charlie Cook, my favorite book by Julia Donaldson. I wonder how much that annoys him, but the people who have young kids will know what I mean by that. Anyway, Charlie is the founder of CEO and of Rightcharge, the UK's leading platform for home charging points and EV-friendly tariffs. Charlie started his electric car career at Octopus Electric Vehicles and Octopus Energy, where he managed electric vehicle charging solutions. This gets a bit clever, this bit. He has a background in science and engineering, having worked at CERN on the next generation of Large Hadron Collider. Charlie studied climate change management and finance at Imperial Business School and is a previous winner of the Young Renewable Energy Professional and Young Energy Professional of the Year awards. So all a bit cool, really. Charlie, thank you for coming on the show. And again, I think, and very much welcome.
Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you. That Young Energy Renewable Professional Awards getting a little bit long in the tooth, I think. Maybe relatively young energy professional these days, but it
was your bio, mate. You sent the text.
Yeah, that's true. Touche.
Thanks for letting Sam do the intro as well.
Well, thanks everyone for having me on for a second time. Yeah, pleasure to talk a bit about the tariff situation. So Gerard has done a fantastic job of setting the scene. Thank you, Gerard. And what I'm going to do today is dive into a bit more detail around how to think about this from an individual EV driver's perspective, or of course, if you're a fleet manager and you have EVs who are parked at individuals' homes, then this is just as relevant, because getting the right energy tariff is probably one of the biggest opportunities to reduce the cost of EV driving. And now that the prices are higher than ever, the opportunities to save are equally as important. Perhaps just to build on Gerard's messages of rising costs, and as we saw in his charts, we've seen a tremendous increase in the cost of natural gas in the UK and across Europe over the past 9-12 months, which has pushed up energy prices across the board. We have done some analysis recently at Rightcharge, And I'm just seeing messages here pop up about Charlie Cook's favorite book, which is incredibly distracting, Sam. So thank you very much. But I do
Really
love
sorry.
no,
Sorry.
not when you Google my name, you get pictures of cartoons and American political commentator in my face. So yeah, no, I'm used to it. So we've done some analysis, and obviously April 1st is the date at which the price cap will be increasing. So Ofgem, who regulate the space, have announced that the price cap will be rising by 54%. Which is specifically attached to the variable tariffs from energy suppliers. So that's probably one of the first things to note, is that the price cap is a cap on the prices for variable tariffs and doesn't impact fixed rate tariffs. So always important to compare or look at the opportunities in fixed rate tariffs. We've run some numbers for the average UK driver. So that's someone who lives in a medium-sized home, maybe 3 bedrooms, drives a medium efficiency vehicle, which surprisingly turns out to be a Jaguar I-Pace. Yeah, surprising. And they drive 7,400 miles a year, so UK average mileage. So that very average individual, they would be paying the least amount right now on a variable tariff. If you were to switch to the best rate electric vehicle friendly tariff, you'd be paying just a little bit more right now. But the important thing is that from April the 1st, this variable tariff is going to jump up to here. And so from the 1st of April, the best opportunity to save for that average driver is going to be by fixing their rates and switching to an EV friendly tariff. And the reason that EV friendly tariff can be cheaper is predominantly because it gives the opportunity to charge overnight. And it's that reduction in the EV charging cost that actually brings the total price down. Surprisingly, switching from that variable tariff to the EV friendly tariff actually increases the cost of the home's energy, but that's offset so much by the drop in the EV charging cost that you get an overall reduction. For the average driver, that's around £300 cheaper per year than a standard variable tariff. And yeah, exact figures are you would be paying about £2,500 a year on the EV friendly tariff versus around £2,900 on the variable tariff. So £300 to £400 in fact saving by switching. I think I've got time, so if it's okay, guys, I'm just going to share my screen and run through quickly how we help drivers to compare tariffs. Hopefully
2 minutes, Charlie, if that's okay.
2 minutes. I'll run through no time, Johnny. So this is the homepage of Rightcharge. Here we have an option to compare chargers and connect with installer, but here we also have the EV energy tariff comparison. So the first questions are what you might see on your general big comparison services, and this is about your home, so where you live, because that influences very slightly what the cost of energy is, which energy sources you use at home, how big your house is, how you pay. And then the next piece now is considering your vehicle. So it's which car are you driving? So if you go, I don't know, BMW i3, and you could add another one for if you've got a couple. So let's go e-tron. So it's maybe, let's say you do 10,000 miles in the BMW and then 5,000 miles in the Audi. That gives us a picture of the total amount of energy usage for the vehicle. And then we've got to break that down into how much might be used at home. So this question is around how often you might charge away from home. Are you generally parked at home overnight? So we'll think about how much energy might be used in the off-peak period overnight. And then can you schedule your charge, which is a crucial factor to actually accessing those overnight rates. All of that information goes into a big calculation which looks at electricity prices, gas prices, standing charge, unit rates, day rates, night rates, pulls it all together, and you get a comparison of the EV friendly tariffs available on the market. So you can see here we've got Octopus and EDF, who currently have them open to new customers. You get an annual estimate for the bill, you get broken down into the home and to the car, and then you can go away and switch to that tariff. So if you're an individual or if you're a fleet, this could be a great tool to make sure your drivers are on the best rates. So thank you, everyone. I'll hand back.
Thank you very much, Charlie. So over to JC for questions, as we've got 22 in there at the moment.
We certainly do. Are we going to bring all of the speakers back on, Johnny?
Yeah, I'd like to invite them back on. So Gerard and Adam, would you like to come back on?
Just as we've got 23 now questions, I thought it might be useful just to fire through them in chronological order and just get through as much as we can, because there's an awful lot there. And it's worth saying, Charlie, you don't just do energy prices, do you? There's a whole suite of charge point infrastructure there as well that people can pick from, 50 plus installers. So it's quite a comprehensive service that you provide there.
Absolutely, absolutely, all together, all in one place.
Can I just
Cool.
say, John, as
Right.
well, that I will definitely be looking back on Charlie's website after this call, because that's exactly the situation where I need to appraise my own energy tariff to understand what I need to do next. And one question I was going to ask, which you've already answered, is how you take into consideration public charging use relative to what you do at home, which I think is a really critical part of that calculator, to understand how much you're going to be spending on the road and how much you're going to be consuming on your own driveway or garage. So yeah, it's a great tool. Well done. Well done.
Thanks, Sam.
Great indeed. Anything positive from Sam's got to be good. Michael Barton. So with EV sales far outpacing charging point installations, at what point will charging anxiety replace range anxiety? What do you think? Anybody got a view? Paul?
Sorry, already has. I think charging anxiety is definitely the thing that bothers people. I think both for cars and I think more importantly for vans as well. But then I would say that, wouldn't I? There we go. There's the roll of the eyes from Sam. Well done. But charging anxiety has definitely kind of taken the place of range. I think range has been answered in most cases, but people need to just have confidence in when they come to charge.
Okay, Steve Jones asks, how do you see the industry improving the gap between parking and charging? And I see Adam's responding to that live. Sam Rawson, what's your prediction for the energy price cap increase or decrease come October? Gerard, what do you think?
Gosh, there's a question. I think it's probably, looking at the way wholesale rates are at the moment, and Charlie might have a view on this. You've got the chance to see me as well as hear me now. I think it's going to be fairly similar to what it is at the moment. I don't see it dropping this year. I think it's going to be next year before it will start to come off its current high. Don't know whether Charlie's got a view on that.
That's what I'm sort of hearing and seeing, Gerard, is it probably won't drop. And I've heard some people say it might even go up a little bit more in October. But yeah, it looks like we've got probably 12, 18 months before we see anything like where we were before.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Sam, I think you might have a view on this one. Should we start to see a tax an additional tax for those buying an electric SUV because they're bigger and take more energy and are potentially less efficient? What do you think?
I don't know how you would really do that or define one vehicle over another. I don't know. I don't know whether I have a good answer for that one.
Paul looks like he's got a good answer.
Yeah, go on, Paul.
Say something.
You've got an answer.
Well, Sam was saying, I don't know how you would do that, but we currently do it for ICE cars with their efficiency rating. So we do it based on their CO2 output. And so if they have a WLTP output, it would be a similar sort of measure. So if the efficiency is less, we should have an efficiency like our fridges, A, B, C, D, E, that type of thing. And kind of, we should come with an energy rating, an efficiency rating, and then measure the tax based on that.
Yeah, it's a good answer. I mean, it widens the net, doesn't it? In regard, I mean, the specifics was around SUVs, whereas you're referring to the general efficiency of vehicles, no matter what their size. So whether part of the question was weighted towards the large size of vehicles and the fact that they're too big for bays and things like that might be part of the question as well. But nonetheless, your answer is a good one in terms of the best way of using maths to measure the metric. I'm in a good mood today. And that's twice 2 compliments in 5 minutes.
This has got to be painful for you. You're going to have to go and stick pins in yourself afterwards or something.
There's going to be a fight if we talk about the size of bays and whether you can get a van in them. Adam, you have your hand in the air.
Yeah, it's just from a personal point of view. So I I run a football team. I've got 3 kids. So for me, I've always had an SUV. And I think anything that would discourage an SUV driver from transitioning from a nice vehicle to an EV would be a bad move, because there are lots of people up and down the country that are similar to me. Maybe not both cars in the household. Maybe we look at that, but actually, if you was to put a tax on someone getting an electric SUV, I think that would have a negative effect on the personal transition.
Going to come though, isn't it? I mean, the government are not going to miss that opportunity to incentivize people to not only move to smaller vehicles, but to the most efficient that they can within their category. There's got to be incentives. I know it doesn't suit your narrative or indeed mine. I've got 4 kids, but the reality is that government don't miss those sorts of tricks very often.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Howard Knight, what a fabulous name, sir. How can a consumer be expected realistically to accept the burden of additional battery cycles in a V2G scenario? Isn't that where we need to move to the sharing economy? Sam, hand in the air, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to give a very watery answer, but refer to our old friend, Mr. Ewan McTurk, who will have the proper answer to this in regards to whether or not recycling on V2G is damaging the battery or not. I think the understanding is that the science suggests that it doesn't cause too much damage, providing it's within reasonable tolerances of the battery's upper and lower limits. I've lost the question now, JC, but he also asked about battery swapping, which is just never going to happen. So
yes, didn't even get there. 2-part question, second part wasn't getting answered.
Well, I answered it anyway. It's not happening.
I have unmuted Ewan McTurk, unless you want to give his view on it.
There he is.
I was
like a coiled spring.
I was stuffing my face with my lunch there. There was a bit of a Guy Goma moment. Remember that the guy who was the wrong person on BBC Breakfast News, and his reaction was like, "Well, me? Oh, right, okay." Yeah. So in terms of vehicle to grid, there's been a study conducted by some of my old colleagues at WMG, Warwick Manufacturing Group, University of Warwick. They know what they're doing with batteries. They have a massive facility to test them. And over the space of 2 years, they tested very similar cells to what you'd find in a Tesla, actually, 18650 cylindrical cells from Panasonic. And they tested those in various different climatic conditions. Some of them were as if they were in Anchorage, Alaska. Some of them were as if they were in Cairo in Egypt. And they did drive cycles for an electric vehicle during the day and then vehicle to grid overnight. And over those 2 years, they found that the ones that were doing vehicle to grid rather than just, your electric vehicle drive cycles actually had their lifespan expanded by 10%. So vehicle to grid was actually good for those batteries. Why is that? It's probably because they were spending less time sitting fully charged at 100% state of charge. So that basically means that there is less chance of the electrolyte, the conductive fluid that allows the lithium ions to go between the electrodes, degrading against the positive electrode, the cathode, at very high potential. It reaches very high potential when the cell is fully charged. So basically, vehicle to grid, very kind of gentle discharge. Sorry, I can see that Paul's looking a bit confused.
Always
standard.
But basically, long story short, a vehicle to grid cycle is very gentle on a battery. It's much lower power than the very kind of it's lower power, and it's more consistent power than the very kind of stabby, harsh acceleration, harsh regenerative braking that an electric vehicle will subject a battery to. And yet those batteries will last hundreds of thousands of miles. So batteries are a lot tougher than we think they are. But actually using them for vehicle to grid as well, let's put it this way. I have a Nissan Leaf on my driveway, and the fullest intention is to use it for vehicle to grid, because I know that it's not going to damage the battery. I am not scared about using it for vehicle to grid.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Ewan. And before you go, can you just say, choose John?
I'm going to mute you quickly. Mute him. If he sounds familiar, then you probably recognise his voice from the voiceover of our train spotting parody. So that's all we have time for at the moment for questions. It's actually now time to go to our news round section of the show. So tuning in live to Sarah Sloman from the studio. Sarah, are you there?
Of course. Here I go. Thanks for the warning.
Oh, there.
No time. So I'm very pleased to be delivering you the news today.
You just bear with me 1 second, Sarah. I just need to spotlight you because otherwise I get told off.
Creativity does not wait.
Bear with me.
Whose phone is that?
That was
Hello?
mine.
Please.
I'm sorry.
No.
Everybody,
Now we
please
know
go
who
on
it
mute.
was
This is
earlier.
really important. She's delivering some really important news.
It's not really important because I can't even see with these glasses on. Right, welcome to the EV Café News. I'm Sarah Sloman. It's lunchtime. Please pay attention because I've only got 90 seconds. EQT Infrastructure has agreed to acquire Instavolt from Zook Capital. EQT will invest significantly in Instavolt's accelerated rollout of charge points to reach a network of 10,000 rapid chargers by 2032. Current partners include McDonald's, Costa Coffee and Booths, and luckily some gyms as well. Meanwhile, GridServe opened their first high-powered electric vehicle charging hub in Wales, tackling charging disparities across the UK. The Swansea Electric Hub features 350 kilowatt ultra-high-powered chargers and marks a step change in the deployment of EV infrastructure in Wales, which has one of the lowest numbers of public EV chargers in the UK. Wales has committed to delivering 4,000 rapid chargers across the country over the next decade. EV Café friend Randall Not So Tiny Smith, don't worry, that is his nickname, not one that I chose, articulately described the need for policymakers to openly discuss with charge point operators the challenges faced by a vast swathe of our population. By 2035, there's an estimated 2.7 million drivers with a named disability, half of whom will have to rely on the public network. This is in a discussion we're going to be opening up on next month's webinar, where Claire Pennington from Urban Foresight and Dan Turner from Plymouth City Council will join us as we discuss the topic at hand. And a white paper is to come on this for sure, so watch this space. And lastly, I leave you with the excellent news that electric vehicles have brought down the CO2 emissions of new cars in the UK to the lowest ever level. And more on that as we see the likes of Britishvolt flying ahead with their strategic partner Glencore, who have agreed to build a battery recycling ecosystem in the UK. So much to say, but I'm completely out of time. So thank you for watching. I am Sarah Sloman, and it's back to the studio. But first, Paul, you don't care about vans though, right? Just shove them in a car park with everyone else, yeah?
Absolutely not. It is a travesty that the charging network at the moment does not accommodate the humble van. Apparently, we are trying to merge involuntarily vans and cars into the same charging infrastructure when actually we do need dedicated charging infrastructure or just bays where vans will fit. What do you think, Sam?
I think with 3 minutes to go, we're not talking about this now.
Damn.
We'll give it a good
we
go.
Yeah, well,
Can we
you're
leave
still
this for the after hours session?
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
the after hours, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Vans, trucks, and accessibility to Randall's point.
it's time now to transition to our EV Cafe after hours. So if you've got nothing better to do, or you haven't got a call at 1 o'clock, or you've got to go out, and you haven't had enough of us, then please stay on as we go to the after hours where we can answer more of your questions and also speak to the guests in a bit more detail. So transition to after hours and bring on the special guests if you want to come on. Please share your camera.
Johnny, can I just say as well to everybody who's listening before they all dial off is, please do reshare and share anything that we put out if you'd be so kind. We're obviously here doing this on our own back to try and spread the message of EVs and everything associated to it. So if you're here, you're listening, you're interested, thank you for doing so, and please do share all of our stuff so that we can spread the word wider and further throughout this year.
This is about growing the EV community in any way we can and accelerating the transition towards electric vehicles, but also renewable energy, right? That's what we all do. So if you could just spread the word, as Sam says, we'd much appreciate it. Make sure you're connected to all of us. Make sure you follow our social channels, and we will be writing up today's session. So please engage in our LinkedIn.
Don't forget to register for the next session next month. What date is that, Paul?
I don't know.
23rd of March.
Thanks, Sarah.
Accessibility for all.
Hospital pass, brilliant, love it.
There's also an opportunity for any of the audience to come online and talk to us as well.
2,800. I've got the figures actually. We've got a blog on the website. So for anyone who wants to see all the detail, if you go to charging guides on the website, there's an article called The Changing Energy Price Cap. And we've got all the analysis in there. But yeah, £2,894 per year, which is astounding, really, for an annual energy bill for the average person. And that's that's if you're on the standard variable tariff, and then £2,558. So it's about, what's that? Just over 300, sort of 340. If my maths is correct, which it probably isn't. But yeah, so
Colin's put that in the chat box for you, Charlie, and
awesome.
also requires a wave from you, please.
So a wave like this?
Yeah, that's it. That kind of wave, exactly. Yes. Well done. Thank you.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I've just noticed there's a Karcher person in the house. Just saying, Claire Leclerc is in the house, and she's got a little mitt in the air.
Oh, we must
shall we
elevate Claire.
Claire might be coming to clean us up.
Someone's got to.
It's going to need more than a Karcher for that.
I'd just like to point out that I have started recording again, just in case there's any nuggets of information that comes out of this chit chat this afternoon. I will allow Claire to talk. Hi, Claire. Are you there?
Talking is permitted.
I'm here. Hello, hello.
Welcome to the EV Café, Claire.
Hello.
Hi, Claire.
That was great, guys. Thank you very much.
What did you take from it, Claire? What about energy? I mean, you've got bundles of energy, but yours isn't free, is it? It takes effort.
It's not low carbon either.
I think we're working a lot on our sort of message, Karcher, we're bringing in Battery Universe. You know, we're very much about diesel. We have these big diesel engines cleaning in the workshops. So we're looking at our message with Battery Universe. So one battery fits all equipment. At the moment, the batteries aren't strong enough, but in 3 years they will be. So to support the ICE ban coming in. And we're looking forward to working with you guys in the future. Hopefully you're coming to see us in June.
We certainly hope to be. Yeah, I think that would be a brilliant thing, because I think Karcher have done some amazing things in terms of smarting up your kit. So in the old days and with consumer products, it was pretty dumb. You just plugged it in, it goes to high pressure, you clean stuff. But you're in the industrial sector, in the grey sector, you're much more about smart technology and how best to use water and electricity and so on. Smart apps being used to control devices. Is that right?
Yeah, we're sort of the early stages of it all at the moment, and I'm sort of new to Karcher myself in the last 2 months. So this is what I'm trying to learn, where we're going as a business, and how we can support. I mean, I head up the key accounts for automotive, so I'm looking how I can support that industry moving forward, how we can as a cleaning company. So watch this space. I'll have lots more information for you over the next coming weeks.
Well, I certainly wouldn't touch Sam Clark with a high pressure hose. That's all I'm saying. Lovely to hear from you. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot, guys.
John, we've got quite a few hands raised. Should we go to the next person?
Yeah, who we got? Well,
next on my list is Kate.
Kate Tyrrell. KT.
Who?
RRLL.
Come on, Kate. Hashtag child safe.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, Kate.
Who indeed, Sam?
I'm only kidding. I love you, really. I love you, really.
You don't love me anymore.
Always.
I just wanted to pop on. Amazing show, as always, guys, and do a little bit of a scene still, because there was a comment in the chat that popped up, and it was from Martin. He mentioned accessibility, safety and security, a key criteria for upcoming rapid charge procurement in Solihull, and I feel like that's the case all over the UK. So for those who don't know, something is coming. A little bit of a plug. I know this is really cheeky, but if you want to go over to chargesafe.uk to find out what we're doing to improve accessibility and safety standards across the whole of the UK, then please do, and let me know if you've got any questions. Thanks for letting me hop on, guys.
Little bit of a plug.
Use the pun.
You are so welcome, and a very worthy exercise. Thank you for doing it.
Love you guys.
It's the unknowing when you turn up to a public charger that causes this additional charger anxiety, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all different unknown. But yeah, no, thanks very much, Kate. So next on the list we have...
Donnie, can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, you can, yeah.
And it's to Ewan, who I see is still there. So my question is slightly on in response to your far more articulate answer about V2G. If you had 10 grand stuck around the back of the sofa, sake of argument, would you buy a Tesla Powerwall or an old Nissan Leaf and a V2G charger to go with it?
That is a great question. The way that I look at this is the cost per kilowatt hour capacity when installed. So, for example, I had a Nissan Leaf anyway. I then upgraded to a Tesla. And yes, as you do, obviously. But because I still had space on the driveway in suburbia, I kept the Leaf because I was playing the long game. And it's my fullest intention to get a vehicle to grid charger, which is typically sub £5,000 quite comfortably. I believe they've come down a bit more since I last checked. And if you look at the capacity of the battery in that Nissan Leaf, you're looking at 24 kilowatt hours for a Sunderland built vehicle to grid capable Nissan Leaf, or 30 or 40 or 62 kilowatt hours. If you already have that, and it tends to be sitting at your house when you need the electricity the most through vehicle to grid, then you really only need to count the cost of the vehicle to grid charger and then divide that by the number of kilowatt hours of the battery pack, and that's your, or usable kilowatt hours if there's a limit on the amount that the vehicle to grid charger actually takes from the battery, and that's your capacity, that's your cost per kilowatt hour installed capacity. Compare that to a Tesla Powerwall, which is about 14 kilowatt hours, if I recall correctly, and about 10 grand installed. So yeah, it starts to become pretty cost competitive. If you have the Leaf already, it's a no-brainer. If you manage to get a really good deal on a used Leaf, it's very competitive. Longer answer than you were expecting, but hopefully useful nonetheless.
And a good deal on a Nissan Leaf right now. Auto Trader, £5,949 gets you a 24 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf from 2012 with 105,000 miles on it.
There's an important thing here, actually. Apparently, it's only the Sunderland built 2014 onwards Leafs in the UK that can do vehicle to grid. The older Japanese imports, like you mentioned, cannot. The way that you can tell this, apart from the age being 2013 or older, is that they tend to have cream interior. Some of the Sunderland built ones did as well. So the other way that you can tell is that the Sunderland built vehicle to grid capable ones have a foot operated parking brake, whereas the original Japanese non-vehicle to grid capable in the UK market ones have an electronic handbrake, the little flicky switch where the gearbox would have been, sorry, but the gear stick would have been, if you wish. So yeah, sorry, just an important one before someone rushes out, buys a Leaf and finds they can't use it for V2G.
Well,
and most of those early ones, Ewan, if I'm right, they were this colour and they had smaller boots as well.
Bingo.
You didn't actually answer the question, though, Ewan.
Interior.
Oh, aye.
You didn't actually answer the question, because your example, although weighted towards the fact you've already got a vehicle, a Leaf, you did mention the fact that, you know, the logic of going to get one. But which one would you choose to do if you didn't already have a Leaf? Would you go with buying a secondhand one that was V2G enabled with a charger, or would you get a Tesla Powerwall or equivalent?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose it comes down to the space that you have available. If you only have, well, if you don't have a driveway, obviously, it needs to be the Powerwall. If you've only got space for one car and it's out when you need, when you would otherwise need vehicle to grid, but you're actually driving it at the time, then it perhaps doesn't make as much sense. But if you've got space on the driveway, I am weighted towards the Leaf option at the moment, because if you take the cost of the vehicle to grid charger and the Leaf, if needs be, divide it through by the capacity of the battery pack in the Leaf, you'll probably find that value per kilowatt hour, cost per kilowatt hour, is less than a Tesla Powerwall would be installed. Both are sensible options, but obviously any Leaf, even the older, shorter range ones, give you a heck of a lot of battery to play with for vehicle to grid. So
plus, of course, the Leaf you can use to take the kids to school, and the Powerwall you cannot.
Oh, it's a battery on wheels, and as long as you've not sorned the thing, then you can go, oh shoot, I need to go and get a pint of oat milk, and you can go down to not just milk. We need to be forward thinking here. Reducing our carbon emissions. Pop down to to Waitrose to get your pint of oat milk, and then you can go back, plug in, and that's you continuing to be energy independent and make the best use of renewable energy and reduce the need for gas-fired peaking plants.
Ewan, I knew you when you had nothing. Now we've got Tesla, off-road parking, and oat milk. Who are you?
What's happened to me?
Hashtag plug life.
And narration. Don't forget narration. Add that to the list.
Oh yeah.
Did we pay you for that? I think I texted you to say you needed some beers, but you didn't put your order in.
Oh,
okay. I'm going to mute you in now.
I'll take a New World white wine, perhaps a Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Gris. I'll continue to be insufferable. What's happened to this boy from an ex-mining town in the west coast of Scotland?
Mute, Johnny.
Don't forget, I've got loads of pictures of you, Ewan. I can use them anytime. Oh, that's a bit weird. I just meant from live events.
Very weird.
Oh, I'm so glad you're still recording.
Sorry.
Good to have that as libel anyway. Yeah.
Right, we've still got some hands up. Shall we go to the next person?
Warren Phillips. Warren from the EVA. How are you, my friend? Come and talk to us.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, mate. Yes. How are you?
All right. How are you guys?
We're here.
I bumped into some of you earlier in the week. Actually, quickly going back to the Tesla versus Leaf thing. The one extra thing you get with the Tesla that you don't get, or two extras you get with Tesla you don't get with the Leaf, are you can do. The Tesla is smart. It can do. It kind of works out what it's doing. So once you stick your tariffs in there, it will look at, if you've got solar, it will look at your solar output, and over the year, it will automatically adjust how much power you bring in. So I'm on Octopus Go. In the summer, it doesn't charge anything off Octopus Go because my solar panels generate enough power for me to run 24 hours a day. In the winter, it takes everything from Octopus Go. And it does it automatically. I don't have to think about it. The other thing you can do with the Powerwall, and if you've got Gateway 2, is if there's a power cut, you carry on going. And at the moment, I don't think the Leaf can do that. So if you've got Power Loop or something like that in, I don't think the Leaf can do that. So there we go. Actually, the question I had, or the thing I wanted to ask about, or ask for what your thoughts were, was we're starting to see lots of community charging stuff come up, things like Co-Charger, and even some of the big companies are putting in schemes where you can rent your charger out to people. Now, I think it's a great idea actually, but what do you guys think, especially with things like people who are working in delivery service, for instance, have a company van where they might need to charge it at home, but they haven't got the ability to charge it. Do you see things like the Co-Chargers of this world kind of helping with those kind of issues?
Yeah. And I think the more the merrier. So Co-Charge is obviously one of the first. You've also got Just Park's version, and there's another one that I discovered the other day. I just moved and I don't have a home charger right now, and it's been fantastic. And I was speaking to a DPD driver the other day who was queuing for a rapid, and in the time it took him to go away, come back, miss the chance, reset the machine, all the things that were going horribly wrong, he could have got quite a whack out of somebody's home charger just over the road there. So I showed him the different apps that you can get. Like, he was gone a couple of hours, and in that time that would have seen him through to the next morning where he could have gone to a different rapid. So there's huge mileage in it, and homeowners are only just cottoning on to the fact that it can make, cover the cost of the charger, but also people are worried. They're worried that people are going to leave vehicles there, that the vehicle's going to blow up, it's going to catch fire, are they insured? And all of these questions will sort of slowly dissipate when people realize it's a community, so you know who's using your charger, and they probably live down the road and don't want to install them themselves. So yeah, great point. Love community charging. Definitely helps tackle that anxiety.
I just want to add to that, just a further comment, is that drivers, particularly like myself, may only need to charge once a week at home or once every 2 weeks at home. So could we be supporting other drivers? How can we best utilize our own chargers or monetize our own chargers? And then how do we apply that same mentality at the office or depot or whatever? Paul, over to you.
Well, actually, Charlie, that way, actually, on my screen, put his screen thing hand up.
It's actually there. Next to me.
So, Charlie, you go first, and then I'll follow you, mate.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Just super quickly, like to build on Sarah's point. So Co-Charger and Just Park, probably the two main businesses in that space at the moment. And Just Park in particular, you can actually point to the deal they've got with Addison Lee. So the service they're providing to Addison Lee is specifically about this. It's like, surprisingly, and I didn't know this, but fleet drivers are almost the inverse of the rest of the population in terms of their likelihood of having a driveway. So, two-thirds of homeowners, slightly more percentage of vehicle owners do have driveways, whereas fleet drivers is actually the opposite. They tend to live in in flats and other sorts of non-driveway accommodations. So just Parker trying to get a critical mass, I suppose, of community charge points around those Addison Lee drivers' locations, so that can unlock EV as an easier option for them.
Yeah, and obviously the mention of van should not go missed. The van still needs a solution, and certainly the home charging driveways of people that can have a van on the drive would be a solution. The other thing to consider, though, is that there are covenants on many driveways around the UK and the States that do not permit commercial vehicles to be operating or parked on them. So again, we still are left with needing a separate additional solution for vans.
Yeah, just to add to your point, Paul, as well, in terms of commercial vehicles utilizing spaces like that, assuming that they're able to, because to your point, is that these are commercial vehicles that are being used 5, 6, 7 days a week, and they have to be charged. There is otherwise you cannot do your day job. So if you can only use a particular charge point for 4 days a week because the actual owner is using it for the other 3, it's not going to work. No. So unless that solution allows perhaps a van user multiple choices of charger throughout the week, so he will always have an option 7 days a week guaranteed, he's not going to use it because he can't rely on it. So it has to be properly belt and braces. Otherwise, I fear it's not a viable solution for commercial traffic.
Yeah, and I think certainly in the first life, Sam, but what is clear when you look into van usage, in the second life of vans, they only do around, on average, 7,500 miles. So as the market matures and we get used vehicles, the local builder, baker, candlestick maker, will be operating locally, and they average 25 to 30 miles a day. So in the first life, definitely. In the second life, longer term, they're much more likely to be parked at homes.
Even in that example, if he's only charging once a week, it just happens to be the day that Mrs. Smith is also charging her car.
Right. Yeah. No, agreed. We still need a better solution.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your question, Warren.
Is there an option now?
Sorry, Warren was saying something. Go on.
Oh, sorry. Let me just.
Not anymore. He's not.
Yeah. See ya.
We've
got 4 other people putting their hands up. We've got about 9 minutes left. I wanted to get
just very quickly, if I'm allowed to talk. Is there an option to flip it the other way around for those companies that have chargers at work for their staff when they come in and charge during the day? Well, those car parks are empty in the evenings. Can we not whack vans in there, or open them to the communities to charge in there where they don't have charging at home?
It's already being thought about, actually. So a lot of the bigger companies are considering, what they do with the charging infrastructure that they put in themselves. And some of the bigger companies are thinking about where they might put DC charging and make that available when they're not using it. So yeah, the flip is definitely happening.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
May I quickly interrupt? I've got to scoot off for a 1:30 meeting. Really enjoy being part of the show. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you very much, Gerard.
Thanks, Gerard.
Cheers, Gerard.
Cheers, all the best. Thank you.
We'll be in touch about the stunts.
Randall Smith.
Tiny.
He's in the house.
How you doing,
Randall,
Can you hear me?
Tiny Smith.
Yeah.
Randall.
How you doing? Yeah, thanks for the shout out, Sarah. Obviously, my post seems to have been drawing a lot of attention following the EV show and what we heard there about disabled and elderly drivers and that. But it was one from my side. I just want to probably aim it at Paul. Where are you seeing the LCV market going in 2022? Because I'm looking at sort of electrifying our fleet, and there's some concerns about range and the time it's going to take to charge. And obviously, downtime is you're not making money if you're waiting for the charge to come forward. What's your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, the van market is certainly very positive from an electrification perspective. Everything is going in the right direction, perhaps not at the speed that we might like. There are still some challenges to resolve, and certainly longer distances are still a challenge. So above 200 miles in one go is a challenge. But I would say that it's perfectly possible with the speed of some of the vehicles that you can charge at 100 kilowatts. And that will allow you a decent boost. So you would get 250, 260 miles in a day realistically. So, you know, as long as you can get a good feel on how far you need to go and the type of mileage that you're doing and where you might be stopping, then you will have a good opportunity to, you know, electrify at least some of your fleet. And the reality is that you will never, well, you won't at this stage electrify your whole fleet, depending on the use case. So you'll always find a place where you can get started. And also you have to consider, can we do something differently? So I know the AA at the moment are considering very much about how they can change their operation to allow them to electrify some of their fleet and not the whole fleet, because towing is still an issue for the AA, for instance. So I'm sure, Randall, within your operation, you'll find the ability to move some, and I don't expect any great movement forward in range or towing or anything really this year, but the vehicles that are out there will certainly give you some options.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Randall.
Just to add to Paul's comments there as well, which he said is Randall, it's all about data in this regard and what you're doing, where you're traveling, what your power constraints are in your buildings, how much dwell time have you got, how many vehicles are going back to base, how many aren't. All of those things in your particular scenario need to be appraised to work out what is viable for you in the short and medium term.
And Adam might be able to help with that, because he was smiling rather widely at that point.
I thought he might.
I was laughing. I was waiting for Paul to jump in and say data smater at one point.
It's never gonna never gonna let
John,
that.
you have your hand
up. It gives insight.
You're on mute. Yeah.
No, he's not. He's not on mute.
I want to be a bit naughty. I want to invite Lloyd Allen, who I know is not technically the next person in the list, but his question is worth it because he's put it in the Q&A box, and it's a question for Paul and Sam. I have a question about EV charging bays and vans, if there is time. We got time.
Oh, we've got time for that.
Let's get Lloyd on.
So I'm gonna invite him on. I'm also gonna invite Sebastian on, just because he's been patiently waiting.
Good man.
Hello, Lloyd. Hello, Sebastian.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Hi, Lloyd. Hi, Sebastian.
Shall I go first? Yeah, thanks guys, great show as always. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully this hasn't been covered already. I've had to dip in and out a little bit, but so we've built some charge points in the west of England. We're going to be building a few more, and some specifically are going to be public charging points positioned in places ideal for commercial vehicles. And so we've built stuff which has been on street and off street. Along the way, the council and councils involved have learned how to design and prepare sites ready for charging. And we've basically learned a lot in that process about how to make them accessible, separate topic, but also looking for and seeing how vans use our charge points. Where I'm very keen that when we build this next small batch, which is nothing to rival the grid serve operation, but it's a small project for us, big project for us, fairly small, but I want to make sure that we're building charging bays that are going to be suitable, big enough, long enough, tall enough for the commercial vehicles that they're intended for. So it may be that someone's gathered some information on this, it already exists, it's written down, but if there's any sort of advice on that, or an offline conversation perhaps, make them certain size, shape, etc., I'd be very keen to get it right.
Go on, Sam, you go first.
I'll put my hand up just before you did on purpose. Hi, Lloyd. Yeah, I think it's a very good question. And as you probably have gathered, Paul and I have been debating this one somewhat for the last few weeks anyway. My view on it is that, and Paul's counter view maybe potentially, although I've noticed he's starting to talk in my rhetoric in the last few hours, which is nice.
Yeah.
In that he's saying, oh, all the bays aren't big enough, they've all got to take vans. And my argument is, no, they don't, because everything we've got at the moment is designed already for car traffic. And what we actually need is a secondary layer of commercial charging. I think trying to make accessible disabled access charging, car charging, and commercial charging all in one bay is never going to work. Furthermore, whilst you can fit a small wheelbase Kangoo or ENV very comfortably in a car bay, the DPD vans of this world in the future, larger long wheelbase vans, and then trucks and all the other bits and pieces are just not going to fit in the infrastructure that we've got today. So I think Paul's frustration is around the fact that you can't get vans in bays, and he's completely right. But my view is that it needs to be an entirely separate layer of infrastructure that doesn't exist at all yet, that needs to come along very, very quickly, so that we've got something that's designed for commercial traffic and something that's designed for cars, because they are and will always be materially different in shape and size. And we need to make sure that I don't think trying to merge the two is going to work. I think that's overcomplicated. The councils won't want you to do it. The accessibility and all the other challenges that go with it.
So interestingly, I am in danger of agreeing with Sam to some greater or lesser extent. What Sam, I think.
Hang on. Do you mean Sam wins?
No.
Sam wins.
This is my mic for the day. I'm just going to do a mic drop.
No.
Like a poll, who wins?
What Sam? Right? Are you going to let me speak? Because I'm going to get cross otherwise.
Anyway, who cares?
No, I do, and Lloyd does, and we're answering a question for our guest. Lloyd,
Kelly Davis does. Kelly Davis cares.
Yeah, Kelly cares as well. So we've got people that care about this thing. It is an important subject, and I think the fact that charge point operators have not considered this fact up until now, and have decided that now the network is only for cars is a little bit incredulous, because it should not have been so. You should have considered the traffic that was on the road in the same way that petrol and diesel fuel stations do today. They are suitable and fit for purpose for all vehicles that use them. And we should not now say, oh, we need to create this other level. Now, I agree, the situation we're in, we do have to consider vans specifically, and we do have to think about the size of bays because of the dwell time, and the shape of the bays because of the charge point on the vehicle, and the length of the cables and all those things we do need to consider. But the reality is we're going to have a problem for the medium term, because the charging infrastructure will merge. It is merged. It is not a separate charging infrastructure. You cannot now label it cars only, because it suits your purpose. But I think there should be planning rules around any future deployment of charging infrastructure that would make sure that the people that need to use it can use it. And if we ignore that, then we're in trouble. And I'm happy to have a conversation with you, Lloyd, about the size, shape, and where the charge points are on the vehicles and stuff, so that you can design your charging bays to fit.
Can't believe that.
That's really helpful for both of you. Thank you.
There's a poll, and hosts and panelists can't vote.
I know. I'm trying banging
on purpose. That was
the only quick counters I'll just give to Paul's response.
No, you're not allowed counters.
Why?
Because you had counters last time, and you've had your argument.
You've already won. You've already won, Sam. Sebastian.
Okay.
Sebastian is on the call.
Please vote, everybody. Please vote.
Yep.
Sebastian,
can we vote for both?
I would vote for both as well. Sam said something very interesting that can be seen in the Netherlands. Not everybody can charge their non-Tesla in the charging bay, and I agree with Paul as well. If you have already Volvo trucks trying to charge a 300 kilowatt, these giant things need to fit somewhere. So, well. My vote goes to both. My question was, now that EQT bought your InstaVolt, I'm from Spain, by the way. This is why I didn't remember the name. What do you think will change in the roaming world in the UK? Because I spoke with Sam about that some time ago. And I understand that the history of roaming, because of how CPOs developed, the first one fought with the second one, the third one fought with the fourth. When the fifth arrived, everything was about war, and they didn't believe in collaboration. But if you work in the roaming world, you see that redundancy, which is amazing what you do in GridSurf, Sam. Charging location density and percentage of EV adoption works better in markets where roaming is a natural thing.
Exactly. I love a bit of roaming.
So
Wonder why.
so do you think with this new acquisition, there might be a change of mentality, given also that the number of CPOs were stuck around 78, 79 in whole of the UK for so long, and in the last months, every 2 weeks, a little niche CPO, which I think it's beautiful. And they will believe in roaming and in collaboration, because they won't dare to compete with kings, because being a king is not sustainable, I think. Yeah, do you think there will be some change? I hope so in the UK. Thank you.
Bastian, thank you. I see this very much like the mobile phone market in the UK and across Europe, that there will come a point where the regulator steps in, and we will have a regulator who will mandate that there will be roaming, and it will happen because it's good for the customer. And I think that will see some fall out of the market, others be absorbed, but it's going to happen. We used to pay to roam, and I remember being frightened to death to phone home from Spain because I'd need a second mortgage. And now I have no issue at all. The same will be true of global charging, certainly UK charging, and probably European charging as well. That's
so important for fleets to give that confidence that wherever they end up outside of their area, they can use another charger, and the bill will be taken care of without having some vast expense for them to foot themselves, particularly because a lot of fleet drivers are on that sort of medium to lower salary as well. So it's not okay to have suspended transactions and owed payments that they've had to make out of their own pocket.